struggle, compassion, and an unexpected turn of events. You won't believe what happened. Watch till the end to find out the full story. If you enjoy the video, please give it a like. Also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. Let's get started. Once upon a time, there was a 12-year-old boy named Sajid who lived with his mother and older sister in a modest 3-story house. The house was built by his father, who had worked in a private company. Unfortunately, his father passed away unexpectedly 5 years ago at the age of 35. He was the breadwinner of the family, and his sudden death created a vacuum that would never be filled. Sajid's mother was only 27 years old when her husband died, and at such a young age, she found herself alone, struggling to provide for her children. The pain of losing her husband was overwhelming, but the financial burden was even more crushing. The company where Sajid's father worked provided them with only 200,000 taka, approximately $2,000, which was far from enough to sustain them for long. Sadly, none of their relatives or friends came forward to offer any support. It's said that in times of hardship, even relatives become strangers, and that's exactly what happened. Once surrounded by people, Sajid's family now found themselves isolated. Everyone went on with their own lives, and no one cared to check on them. Sajid's mother, who had always been a loving and caring wife, found herself in a new and unfamiliar role. With no one else to turn to, she became the sole caretaker of her family. She spent her days grieving, and her nights worrying about how to feed her children. She spent all her time at home, trying to make ends meet. Despite her best efforts, the money her husband had left behind quickly ran out. As time passed, the financial strain became unbearable. They were unable to pay the bills, and food was becoming scarce. Sajid's mother did everything she could to save money. She cut down on expenses, sold whatever little they had, and tried to make the best of their dire situation. But even with all her sacrifices, the money was gone within 10 months. With no other options left, Sajid's mother made a difficult decision. She would have to leave the house and find work to support her children. As Sajid's mother ventured out into the world to find work, she faced the harsh reality of a woman alone, struggling to support 2 children. She first found a job as a maid in one house. The pay was minimal, but it was a start. She continued her search and soon managed to secure 2 more cleaning jobs. With 3 jobs, she earned a total of 12,000 taka a month, though it was barely enough to cover their daily expenses. Sajid's mother persevered, but even with this small income, life was still difficult. Bills had to be paid, rent had to be covered, and the children's needs had to be met. The pressure was immense. Half of her income went toward sending Sajid and his sister to school and buying them small necessities, leaving her with very little to get by. Sajid, on the other hand, was doing his best to stay focused on his education. Despite the constant worry over food and money at home, he tried not to let it affect his studies, but soon, the weight of hunger and stress took a toll on him. For 2 days, Sajid hadn't eaten anything. His body grew weak, and he couldn't focus. His stomach ached, and he felt drained. He drank only water to keep himself going, hoping it would provide some relief. Yet, as he sat in class, he felt his energy draining away. His vision blurred, and everything around him seemed to be fading into darkness. Sajid's teacher, Bilal, noticed the change in Sajid. He saw the pale, weak boy struggling to stay awake and wondered what was wrong. Concerned, Bilal approached him and gently asked, "What's wrong with you, Sajid? Are you feeling all right?" Sajid, with great difficulty, opened his eyes and replied, "Yes, sir, I'm fine." But Bilal wasn't convinced. He could see that Sajid was far from fine, so he insisted, "Tell me what's really going on. You don't look okay." Sajid hesitated, but after a few moments he admitted, "We have no food at home. We haven't eaten for 2 days. I'm not feeling well." Bilal's heart sank upon hearing this. He could see how much Sajid was suffering. Without a second thought, he stood up, guided Sajid to the staff room, and immediately asked the school's watchman to go to the market. Bilal handed him some money and told him, "Quickly, bring something for Sajid to eat." The watchman rushed to the market, and within minutes, he returned with a burger and a cold drink. Bilal handed the food to Sajid and said, "Here, eat this. You need to recover your strength." Sajid hesitated at first, but the moment he bit into the burger and drank the cold drink, he began to feel better. His head cleared and he felt the energy slowly returning to his body. His vision, once clouded, now seemed clear. For the first time in days, Sajid felt something resembling normalcy. Bilal, still worried but relieved to see Sajid improving, asked, "How do you feel now?" Sajid nodded weakly, his face finally showing a sign of relief. "I'm better, sir." "Thank you." Bilal smiled warmly. "Good. Now go back to class, and after school I want you to come see me in my office." As the school bell rang for the end of the day, Sajid walked toward Bilal's office, still feeling a bit weak, but now able to think clearly. When he arrived, Bilal was waiting for him. "Don't worry, Sajid. I'm going to help you," Bilal said as he stood up. He took Sajid by the shoulder and walked him to his bike. "Come on, I'll take you to the market." Bilal rode his bike with Sajid behind him, and together they went to the market. Bilal bought everything Sajid's family needed: flour, rice, lentils, sugar, and other essentials. He didn't stop there. Bilal took the groceries directly to Sajid's home. When they arrived, Sajid's mother wasn't there yet. She worked late into the night cleaning houses, often returning home in the early hours of the morning. Bilal placed the groceries in the kitchen and then turned to Sajid. "Don't worry about anything now. From now on, I will make sure your family has everything they need. I'll bring food every month, so you can focus on your studies and not have to worry about where your next meal is coming from." Sajid felt a deep sense of relief wash over him. He had never imagined that someone outside his family would care so much. Bilal's kindness was like a beacon of light in the darkest time of his life. Before leaving, Bilal turned to Sajid and said, "I know things are tough right now, but focus on your education. It's the key to a better future. I'll make sure the rest is taken care of." Bilal's intervention wasn't a one-time gesture. He kept his promise to Sajid and his family every month. Without fail, Bilal would send groceries to their home. Sajid's mother couldn't believe the kindness of this man, who wasn't even a close relative. Despite his modest salary, Bilal continued to help without ever asking for anything in return. He often visited Sajid's house, making sure the family had enough food to get through the month. The support Bilal provided didn't stop at just food. One day, when Sajid's mother came home, she was surprised to see a full kitchen with all the necessary groceries stocked up. She asked in disbelief, "How did all this get here?" Sajid, who was sitting nearby, explained, "It was Sir Bilal. He's been sending these groceries every month. He even spoke to the school administration and got my 3 months' unpaid wages waived." Upon hearing this, Sajid's mother broke down in tears. She couldn't believe that someone who had no obligation to them would go so far to help. Bilal's selflessness overwhelmed her, and she prayed for his well-being, thankful for the immense help he had provided during their most difficult times. Bilal's actions went beyond what most people would do. He took a real interest in Sajid's future. He knew that the only way Sajid and his family could escape poverty was through education. Bilal encouraged Sajid to focus solely on his studies and promised that he would always be there for him. Despite the hardship, Sajid's mother was incredibly grateful, but couldn't help feeling guilty that she wasn't able to repay Bilal for his kindness. However, Bilal, always humble, assured her, "You don't need to thank me. You can consider me your brother. Helping you is the least I can do. You and Sajid are like family to me." While Sajid's mother worked tirelessly to make ends meet, Bilal's regular support ensured that they never had to worry about food again. Over time, Sajid's mother felt a sense of peace, knowing that someone cared for them and that her children wouldn't go hungry. As the months passed, Sajid focused on his studies with renewed determination. He became more motivated to succeed, inspired by Bilal's selfless help. Sajid began to dream of a better life, a life where he could repay his teacher for everything Bilal had done for him. Despite all the struggles, Sajid's schoolwork improved. He worked diligently and began to excel in his classes. His teachers noticed the change in him. The weak, distracted boy who had once struggled to stay awake was now attentive, focused, and full of hope. But Bilal's influence didn't just stop at providing groceries or tuition fees. He had instilled in Sajid the belief that no matter how difficult life became, education would always be the key to overcoming obstacles. Sajid believed that if he worked hard enough, he could change his life and, in turn, help others, just as Bilal had helped him. Bilal's impact on Sajid was immeasurable. He was not only a teacher but also a mentor, a guiding light in the darkest time of Sajid's life. The lessons he imparted went beyond the classroom and into the heart of Sajid's life journey. Sajid, now with the courage to dream of a better future, focused entirely on his education. He knew that someday he would repay Bilal in the best way possible by becoming successful and helping others. Time passed, and Sajid's life began to change in ways he had never imagined. With Bilal's unwavering support, Sajid was able to focus entirely on his studies. He poured his heart and soul into learning, never forgetting the sacrifices his mother had made and the kindness Bilal had shown him. He worked harder than ever before, knowing that this was his chance to build a better future for himself and his family. One day, Sajid received the news he had been dreaming of. He had been awarded a scholarship to study at a prestigious university abroad. The joy that filled his heart was indescribable. It was as if all the hardships he and his family had endured were finally coming to an end. Sajid's mother and sister were overjoyed by the news. For the first time in years, they had something to celebrate. Sajid never imagined that he would one day be able to study overseas. It seemed like a far-off dream, something only the rich and privileged could achieve. But now, that dream was within his reach. The university had sent him a ticket, and he was about to embark on a new chapter of his life. The day Sajid left for his studies abroad, his mother and sister stood by his side, both with tears in their eyes. Sajid hugged them tightly and promised that he would work hard to make them proud. As he boarded the plane, he couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come, from a boy struggling to survive to a young man with a bright future ahead of him. After a long flight, Sajid finally landed in the new country. The university had arranged everything for him. His food, accommodation, and all his expenses were taken care of. Sajid was overwhelmed with gratitude. He knew that he was standing at the threshold of a new life, and it was all thanks to the support of people, like Bilal,